When I was a kid in school, the worst thing that could happen to you was to get kicked out for cheating. And now you can go to jail for it. Before we continue on, we had planned talking about Tamika Rashawn on the Dr. Phil episode, but we'll bring that on Monday. You're probably pleased to read in a local paper that your kid's school is scoring above the national average on standardized achievement test. In other words, you could read, write, and compute a lot better than your older brother could, say, 5 years ago. There's evidence that those high scores are bogus because of cheating. Your kids aren't cheating. Their teachers might be. Teacher is a cheater is an open secret in school districts all over the country. There are great pressures on teachers to get those achievement test scores up. In some cases, there are cash bonuses for teachers, and a school prestige, and increased funds for schools. I showed you clips about this, but I'm not showing you the full story, and it's exactly what we're going to do tonight. So, listen.
I want to remind you that this morning you will be taking tests in the areas of language and mathematics. These tests are very important to each of you and to our school.
There's supposed to be great security surrounding achievement tests. Teachers must sign out for the tests and the students' answer sheets.
Thank you.
Tests are supposed to be sealed. Often they are not. Since the point of the test is to learn what children know and when they know it, teachers are not supposed to know what questions are on the test. So they will not, even subconsciously, teach the test to their classes. That's the theory. But one South Carolina teacher who's reluctant to show her face for fear of losing her job says at her school, all the teachers know what's on the test, and the principal encourages them to cheat.
Has he ever said, cheat, give them the answers, give them the questions, teach the test?
Teach the items that are on the test, teach the material that will be on the test.
How do you know what's on the test?
We see the test.
She says the school administration gave her the test a week before test day. When she questioned this, she says she was told by her principal to be a team player.
Have you ever looked at those papers the kids turned in and corrected them?
I've never changed them, but I know people that have.
People at your school have changed answers?
Yes.
It can be as blatant as that. But the most common form of cheating is what teachers euphemistically call test preparation. See the test, then teach the test. That's a crime in South Carolina. Only one teacher has ever been prosecuted, Nancy Yergin.
You gave them the exact questions and answers.
I simply taught the material, but I used the specific material that was going to be asked in the test. I didn't teach them all about all of the invasions in World War II, knowing that only the Berlin airlift was going to be covered. I just simply dealt with the Berlin airlift.
And the question and the answer.
Yes, exactly the material they would be asked. And I did not give them any of the related material that might confuse them.
You zeroed them in on
Yes, I did.
precisely the question.
Yes, I tried to.
Precisely the answer.
The exact material.
And the same questions were used year after year, correct?
Right. This was, when I gave the test last year, that was the 8th year the same identical test had been used, verbatim.
Nancy Yergin, among the most popular teachers at Greenville High, once named Teacher of the Year by the PTA. After she was caught, she says she heard from other teachers who told her cheating was commonplace.
I know of some schools that have bi-weekly meetings at grade levels to go over material that's going to be given on the test.
John Graham Altman, attorney and longtime member of the Charleston County School Board in South Carolina. Cheating in his school district, he says, is so widespread, the tests have become meaningless.
I think they have less value than a broken clock. They just don't give you any useful information.
The most compelling evidence Altman offers that there is something very fishy in the system is that while South Carolina's elementary and high school achievement scores soar over the national average, the state is at the bottom nationally in college boards and other tests local schools do not control.
I think it's just sheer fraud to tell a student or his parents that he's doing better than he really is.
The effect of this is that it allows poor schools to continue to be poor and escape the eye of public inquiry.
Dr. John Cannell has become something of a legend in the world of education. His watchdog group, called Friends for Education, has been tracking the whole business of achievement testing. He says the public education system is riddled with cheating, that the education establishment, in using test results to show progress, is committing a nationwide scam.
Headline story, front page story. Washington, D.C. students score well on national test. Well, that story is printed by the Chicago Tribune and the San Francisco Chronicle and the Los Angeles Times and even the New York Times. And everywhere, superintendents are able to feed these bogus test scores to the print media. The scores are printed, the superintendent gets their raises, and the people of that state are convinced that they're not part of a nation at risk.
Dr. Cannell says the only unusual thing about the Nancy Yergin case was that it became public when this Greenville High teacher blew the whistle. She is Catherine Rice. A year ago, she was supervising an achievement test in her homeroom class when she saw one of Nancy Yergin's students pull out a stack of notes.
We'll hear from the teacher's side, and then we're going to hear the side of Nancy Yergin. Does she have anything to do with this? Is she willing to confess? Or, what will the state say? Stay with us. You've heard part of Nancy Yergin's story about when she was cheating. Actually, you haven't heard part of it, but you just heard about how the same test was used year after year. Now we're going to hear from the teacher who blew the whistle after she caught one of Nancy Yergin's students pull out a stack of notes, probably this thick, or that thick. Can't be sure. So what does the teacher have to say? And what does Nancy Yergin have to say?
I glanced at them and realized they were a copy of the test, a handwritten copy of the test with the answers underlined.
Questions?
Questions and answers. 6 pages.
Were you surprised by this?
Yes, I was floored.
I understand that he took the notes that we took in class with him to the test and hoped to use them to help him answer the questions on the test. That was cheating.
But
Where had he gotten the notes?
where had he gotten the notes?
From me. Right. The material from me.
Nancy Yergin says she was encouraged by her principal, Linda Ward, who she says told her that when she was a teacher, she had done similar preparation for her students, and that it was important to get those test scores up.
She said to me at that time, she looked at me and she said, "We've got to get more teachers doing what you're doing. They're playing that same game everywhere else and we're just not taking part."
That's not true. And I'm sorry that an untrue statement like that has been made. I never cheated. I never condoned cheating. I never encouraged cheating. And I never implicitly gave anyone a green light.
Is there pressure on you as principal to get those scores up?
No. We all like to have good scores. We like our school to show up well on that list in the newspaper. But the real pressure I feel is to do a good job with the curriculum. And, of course, I don't get a bonus. No matter what the scores are, principals don't get any bonuses.
But the school does.
The school gets some money, yes.
Not just the school. The state also rewards teachers. Cash bonuses to those whose classes show improved test scores. A number of teachers at Greenville High received bonuses, Nancy Yergin among them. Linda Ward denies putting pressure on teachers. She says when Nancy Yergin was caught, she turned the matter over to the district superintendent. Nancy Yergin says she did not tell the superintendent about the pressure she felt from her principal.
He said to me, "If I thought your principal knew about this, she would be in as much trouble as you're in." And when those words came out of his mouth, that really, I did not reveal that to him.
Why not?
Why? Because of my feeling for Linda.
Nancy Yergin says she idolized Linda Ward, wanted to be like her, and even now, a year after the incident, she can barely mention her name without tears. Ward offered to let Yergin resign. Yergin chose to fight. It became a public issue. WYFF, a local TV station, covered a public hearing in which a crowd of parents and students rallied to Jurgen's support.
She takes time with us and she really explains everything in detail and she cares about us and she really shows it.
To no avail. She was fired and shortly after was arrested for breach of test security. She took to the airwaves.
Do you think it was bad that your son was given that study sheet ahead of time?
Absolutely not. We love you, Nancy.
Like,
Hang in there.
Thank you. I appreciate your support.
But finally, her nerve gave out and she pleaded guilty and was fined $500. The 90-day jail sentence was suspended, and then the final blow. Her teaching certificate was withdrawn. Nancy Jurgen will never teach again.
I didn't establish the penalties, nor did she, but she certainly knew prior to cheating what the possible consequence was.
Can you and Linda Ward look at each other in the eye these days?
I haven't seen Linda in a long time. I would like to. But I don't think she wants to see me.
What would you say to her?
I'm sorry.
The state accused her of cheating for money for the total of $5,000 in bonuses she received over 2 years. She denies it. She says she was only trying to help the poor kids, the black kids.
A lot of these children are disadvantaged, and for them to have an experience, one more knockdown experience, and one more time of being told, you're nothing, you're stupid, you're less than quality. You're told that often enough, pretty soon you believe it. And then you wonder why they don't want to stay in school.
Dr. Cannell believes Nancy Jurgen's attitude is common, that the net effect of making exceptions for the poor and the black at test time is a form of racism.
In fact, what these tests do is hide the great inequality in American education. If you're born poor and black in South Carolina, you're going to stay poor and black all your life because the public schools, when you finish the public schools in South Carolina, you're going to be illiterate.
Cannell concentrates his anger on achievement testing in the poorest parts of the country. But the corruption of the system seems to be everywhere. The Franklin Avenue School in Los Angeles, one of 68 California schools in which principals and teachers were caught cheating, caught erasing and correcting wrong answers. In Memphis, Tennessee, one teacher confessed that with the principal's complicity, students were given copies of the test before taking it. And teachers have been caught cheating in Texas and Illinois.
Everybody in education knows what's going on. And the State Department of Education is one of the greatest culprits here in this state. They ride those test scores. And they go up and they say, give us more money, hire more people, pay them bigger salaries. It's a racket. And the public's suffering for it. And the taxpayers are hurting, and I guess most of all, the kids are hurting.
Dr. Charlie Williams, the superintendent of South Carolina's Department of Education, dismisses such allegations.
A lot of people may say a lot of things that don't make them accurate. That doesn't make them accurate.
He says the pressures teachers feel to get the scores up have a positive effect.
I think the pressure causes people to teach more effectively. The assumption that's being drawn by you and others is that pressure causes teachers to become cheaters and dishonest people.
I asked, how do you know it's not going on?
Well, first of all, most teachers are sincere about teaching kids rather than making the test scores look good.
People that think that need to come down to the real classroom and see what's going on.
If everybody knows, how come nothing's been done?
It doesn't benefit any school person to do anything about it. Can you think of one, well, I'm not supposed to be asking questions, but can you think of any school official who benefit from low test scores?
Never mind test scores, Dr. Cannell feels this whole story can be reduced to two fundamental questions.
What do your children know, and when do they know it? Because if you don't get an accurate answer to that question, your child is going to join the increasing numbers of young adult illiterates in this country, and it's going to be too late.
Agreed. That's the bottom line here. It's like, I never cheated. I never cheated on a test. I never cheated on anything. We have review sheets. And, this and this, and Well, all of a sudden, I never cheated on the test. If I cheated on the test, I would be in big trouble because a lot of times when you cheat on the test, you're in trouble. Your paper gets torn up, you get a 0 on the test, and then all of a sudden, this and this. So we gotta. Sounds great. So we got done about it. Coming up next, in Uvalde, an officer, an update from Uvalde this time from one of the police, from one of the officers, probably the school or the department. We'll read the very latest. Stay with us. It's now been 4 months since Uvalde, and there's a new update to the case. An officer from the city has been fired. Here's the latest from ABC News.
At Amazon, we're investing $1.2 billion in free technical training for our...
This morning, documents show the Uvalde, Texas school district knew an officer they recently hired was under investigation for her response to the massacre at Robb Elementary back in May, where 19 children and 2 teachers were killed. But they hired her anyway. Now that officer, Crimson Elizondo, has been fired.
They don't do their good background checks.
Victims' families yesterday protested the revelation that the district had hired Elizondo, formerly a state trooper, who was the first to enter the hallway after the shooter gained access to a classroom. Law enforcement waited 77 minutes to take down the shooter. Elizondo was caught on tape saying afterwards that she would have gone in if her son had been inside.
Yeah, my son's in daycare. He's not old enough.
I saw you.
Yeah, no. No, if my son had been in there, no, I would not have been outside. I promise you that.
Parents appalled that Elizondo was hired by the very school district she was supposed to protect.
Why? Why not our kids? Why wouldn't she not been in that room? Why not? If she would have saved her kids, why not mine?
The Uvalde district saying in a statement, "We sincerely apologize to the victims' families and the great Uvalde community for the pain that this revelation has caused." Documents show the district knew August 1st that Elizondo was under investigation for actions inconsistent with training and department requirements.
You know, as the school district that I send my children off to, I expect them to be vetting these officers to make sure that the right people are tasked with protecting our students.
Elizondo resigned from the Texas Department of Public Safety after the massacre to work for the Uvalde School District. So even though she's under investigation, she's no longer subject to any department discipline.
Hi everyone, George.
That's basically good news. Now, the question is, how about in Oxford? Well, remember, the trial is set for this month for Ethan Crumley, or the parents. This, as far as we can tell, the parents' trial is probably this month, and Ethan's is next year. But 3 days ago, Oxford investigators are hosting interview sessions in a school shooting probe. The independent team that hired to conduct an investigation to the November 2021 shooting at the Oxford High School is hosting interview sessions with community members of the North. Private interviews will be held at two locations. So it's like really good. But is there any other updates in Uvalde? Take a look. Well, just 9 hours ago, the Uvalde School District suspends entire police force. The superintendent retired amid fallout from shooting. It's still facing weather criticism. Hours later, Uvalde School Superintendent Hall announced he would be retiring. No time frame given for Hall's retirement, but the transaction will be discussed in a closed session of the board meeting on Monday. Today requested more TDPS troopers to be stationed on campuses and have extracurricular activities to the police department, suspension adding We are confident that staff and student safety will not be compromised during this transition. The length of the school district police suspension is not clear. This is very similar. Now, Crimson Alfonso is fired. The results of JPPI investigation will inform personal decisions, and the Texas Police Chiefs Association review will guide rebuilding the department and hiring a new chief of police. That's what the statement said. So that's really some good news. So we'll be posting what's been going on. So so y'all can be informed. We're back in a moment. There is now another bullying story that happened. WCVB child in Boston. So watch.
The video starts as a group of students chastising the girl who was eventually bullied. Then it turns into an all-out assault with a variety of juveniles involved. The mother of the girl who was assaulted tells us it went on for several minutes before an adult stepped in. It all happened at the Young Achiever School in Mattapan, a pilot school for kids K through 8 that focuses on science and math. Today, Boston Public Schools issued this statement about the attack saying, quote, BPS is committed to investigating all allegations of bullying and working closely with schools, families, students to fully and holistically support our students as they heal from the trauma caused by the pandemic. Boston police did respond to an assault and battery at the school, and the report gives some details of the attack, but all names are redacted since the group are all juveniles. The victim's mother claims her daughter has been bullied since the start of school this year, and now new BPS Superintendent Mary Skipper says she is committed to this issue as BPS now has a new bullying hotline. Indira Nelson is a parent who lives across from the school.
My thoughts is that the teachers aren't doing their jobs correctly and the parents are not supporting their children correctly. Because they know what kind of children they got. They know they got bad children that they need to be talking to them every morning and correcting them before they go to school. It's just not right. And when somebody ends up hurt real bad, nobody knows nothing.
Tonight, Boston police say there have been no arrests in this case, but there is an ongoing investigation. Today, we talked to parents who say bullying is common inside the school, but Boston Public Schools have not decided if any of these students will be disciplined.
I am outrageous. This is unbelievable. And I agree with what the parents said. Parents are not supporting their kids. Support your kids. Parents, you need to support your kids. If your child is being bullied, other parents. Parents of kids who are bullying kids. Teach your kids. Punish them. Charges will be filed. They gotta press charges on you. Take the case of what happened years ago when I told you about this. 10 years ago, a case happened where the Kill Katie Club happened and Nick was arrested. Katie came forward on Dr. Phil telling her story saying this and this and this and that.
Might that work?
But this doesn't end here. Now they're blaming the school board because they're being bullied for LGBTQ. This happened in Pennsylvania, so watch this.
In July, the Central Bucks School Board passed a policy on how to handle books in school libraries when people from the community object to them. In May, students protested outside Lenape Middle School after a teacher who supported an LGBTQ+ student was placed on leave. The district says it wasn't the support that required investigation, but rather if that teacher violated policy. Also in May,
I've been bullied. I've had people yell in my face.
There's a large group of LGBTQ plus students in my school and most times feel unsafe.
Students complained to the school board. They felt they'd been targeted by the school community due to their LGBTQ plus status.
This is an ongoing existing problem that has been there for many years, but now what's been happening is the school board in particular and the administration, they're now taking these kind of openly hostile actions.
Rich Ting is a Pennsylvania ACLU attorney and says the district is aware of student complaints. He says rather than address them, its actions have made the environment worse for those students.
And they've also done a lot of things that are intimidating the teachers and scaring teachers from speaking out or scaring them from openly supporting LGBTQ kids.
And recently, teachers in the district spoke out about a policy on when students' preferred names should be used by teachers, saying assigned names at birth should be used unless parents' permission dictates otherwise. Ting says these are just some of the examples listed in the ACLU administrative action, a filing that's not public and one the district says it won't talk about.
They're not going to talk about it?
Thanks for watching.
This is outrageous. School community leaders have been bullying people about something. What I say here is enough's enough. Enough is enough. There is no reason for this to happen. There's no reason why school boards need to be getting up in their face saying, "Oh, I don't like this, this, and this." But there is more bullying stories happening. Like this. Like the same thing. And there's one. Mother expresses frustration after son falls victim to school bullies. This happened in Kansas. A mother whose child attends an elementary school is expressing her frustrations after she says school administration mishandled a case for her son being bullied. It happened on September 8th through the 23rd. For now, her son is completing schoolwork from home. Okay? It's good news. A 13-year-old was arrested after bullying Hummel ISD 8th grade with autism breaks arm. That's a great way to do so. That 13-year-old was arrested and booked in the juvenile system. He was released to his parents, but criminal charges have been filed against him. The Hummel ISD has sent a statement saying the district thoroughly investigates allegations of bullying and does not tolerate bullying at school. Parents with concerns should reach out to the campus principal. Additionally, this incident is being investigated by Harris County Precinct 4. This is already happening here in Houston, Texas. And let me say this, kids are being bullied. Nothing hasn't been done. How about those school threats? Time to do some catch up here. 10 hours ago, there was a lockdown in Eden Prairie High School after a threat has been made. Guys, I've been telling you this. Don't be making any school threats. If you do, you're going to be going to jail. In Minnesota, the campus was on lockdown early Friday afternoon after district administration said another threat was made. 12:45. So they canceled all the football games. That's fair. In Butler County, Pennsylvania, a man was arrested allegedly entering Butler's school bus making threats. Nothing to do with students. West Loco ISD, 4 students were arrested after a threat against the school. According to news release, officials notified that the threat was made at the high school on Tuesday. 4 students were arrested on charges of terroristic threats. A 15-year-old was arrested in Arizona for making a threat. That's terroristic threats. By the laws in your state, That's a terroristic threat. In Florida, it's very strict on these. In Florida, there is a Florida state statute to where you cannot make school threats. If you do, it's a 3rd degree, 1st degree, 2nd degree. You have to then you gotta do your homework here. But I know a lot about this. I mean, I've seen people being arrested for all these threats. And charges were dismissed of a man accused of making a threat towards the school board president. Alright, now how about the school dress code violations? Well, just 16 hours ago in Wellcrester schools considered to change the dress code. But there's a lot of there are things that can happen. Last month, the St. Johns County School Board monitoring dress code enforcement as non-gendered policy. Last week, school response to outrage from students' parents after girls kicked down dance for a dress code. In Utah, students and parents are demanding answers after girls were kicked out of the homecoming dance for allegedly violating the dress code. The dance in question was hosted by American Leadership Academy at a charter school on Spanish Fork on Saturday night. Students said around 90 girls were kicked out of the dance for dress code violations. The camera was positioned where the ticket takers were, and although no audio was in the feed, Morley said they were able to see people checking for dress code violations. In addition, one student wore a jacket to make their dress code compliant. The school stated, and once inside, the student altered their outfits to no longer follow the rules. Isabella, who also a student at school, said she saw a girl get kicked out after she had gotten her dress approved by the administration. Okay. The school said they will do training when the individuals working on the dance dress code monitors. There are 4 things that the public schools can and can't do with dress codes. Dress codes can't be explicitly discriminatory. There are laws protecting this. You gotta know your rights. Number 2, all students, whether transgender or cisgender, must be allowed to wear clothing consistent with their gender identity and expression. Number 3, dress codes that are unwillingly enforced against particular groups of students may violate laws prohibiting discrimination. So in that case, schools may follow the laws, but discrimination is against the law. Schools can't discriminate based on the viewpoint expressed by your clothing. But they have the right to say that it's a distraction. So, what I have to say about this is, like, schools have the right to make the rules about the dress code because it's a distraction. Like, you can't wear. We don't want to see your belly button. We don't want to see people wearing. We don't want to see your shoulders. We don't want to see holes in pants. It's also trying to teach you when you leave school, you're going to have to look your best when you go apply for jobs and colleges. And the rules of every school district is that the principal has to enforce the dress code that is set forth in the school. You may say, oh, it's just a style, makes you look cool. Holy jeans would not make you look cool. No, it'll be somewhat pretty disgusting. But the truth being is, if you're truly cool, you're going to look cool in pants don't have holes in them. If you're truly cool, you're going to look cool while exposing your belly button and your shoulders. If you're truly cool, you're going to look cool in keychains. Chains are prohibited because... And hats. That's another thing. Hats. Like this. They're not allowed because it's a distraction to the learning environment, to the educational process. It's outrageous. And these dress code violations need to stop. We don't need this anymore. Game Week Saturday happens tomorrow with a 2020 story about kids who are being bullied. Chris Cuomo has that story, and then possibly more most people talk about. So hope you guys tune in. That's Give Me a Break for this Friday. Going to Saturday, we'll see you again for Give Me a Break Saturday night. And for all of us here at Give Me a Break and YouTube, stop bullying, speak up. Good night, everyone.